And where they cross, they cross. So that's a review of two-point perspective. And just to give you a little analysis of this, every line on this picture is either vertical. Let's highlight our vertical lines using a pink highlighter. That's vertical, 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 vertical. Or every line on this page, if it's not vertical, goes to one of these vanishing points. Let's just take a look at that. So this is how you draw it, but I'm going to use my yellow highlighter just to show that these lines, even if I didn't draw them all the way to the vanishing point, that's how I figured out where they go. All those lines go to this vanishing point. And if they're not going to the right, look at this. They're all going to the left. Now, sometimes what's difficult about this is this does kind of dictate your drawing. And what I mean is, something that can be a little tough about two-point perspective is you're always seeing buildings from a corner. In the real world, you can see a building from the front, right? You walk up to a building, you walk up to the front door, you see the front of it. That does exist, and there is a way to draw that. But in two-point perspective, we're always seeing buildings from a corner. So that could be frustrating. It can also be frustrating if you don't want to see the top or you don't want to see the bottom. You don't really get that choice. This kind of decides that what you're going to see. So you have to surrender to the system. All right, now, a few simple things too. We're going to follow those same rules to make stripes on our buildings. So let's start with this one. Lines go either to a vanishing point. So if I go back to my vertical line here, I'm going to draw some stripes, and I'm going to go from the dot, and then to figure out the angle, I'm going to go to my vanishing point. So my ruler has to keep pivoting. I never get to just figure out the angle and just repeat it. Instead, if I'm going to draw another stripe, I have to move my ruler and then make sure it's still lined up to the vanishing point. And so that angle of the stripe is going to keep changing. It might be really angled here. It might be almost flat, almost horizontal here, because it's going to that vanishing point. So see, I'm lined up to a dot, and it's so important. I've moved my ruler so that I'm lined up here. I've moved my ruler down, and then so I've had to pivot to make sure it stays on the vanishing point, vanishing point. So it's still the same rules. Lines are either vertical or they go to a vanishing point. I'm going to do the same on this side. There's my vanishing point. So I'm going to put my ruler right here. So now I'm going to move my ruler, and then I have to, again, make sure that this end is lined up to the vanishing point. So now I'm moving my ruler, and then again, I'm moving this to make sure it's right on the dot, right on the vanishing point. Move my ruler, vanishing point, move my ruler. I'm lined up to the vanishing point. And now I'm going to put my ruler here, and it's going to line up to this dot. And so I can do the same for this building. Maybe I'll do just a stripe here. So here, I'm going to go from here. And again, what's the angle? My dot tells me. And then I'll connect this. I'm going to go from here. I'm going to draw a line, and that line lines up to the vanishing point. So that's how you put stripes on your building. And there is another type of line we can use. We use lines of vanishing point. I can also use vertical lines. So let's take a look at this. Maybe I want to make it look like separate windows, and I can draw a vertical. And as they go off in the distance, they can get closer and closer together. So again, my lines can either go to a vanishing point or they can be vertical. And you can really start playing around with that. Checkerboards, stripes, just vertical lines. I have one last thing. We've reviewed two-point perspective. We've gone over how to add stripes. The last technique is probably the simplest. When you go to shade, you just need to decide on a direction for your light. So let's say I choose the right side. That's always easy for me because I'm a lefty. And so if I have my light on the right, for me, my highlights would always be on the right. So for every box, the left side's going to be shaded. And I would just do that consistently. So this side's going to be light and the left side's going to be shaded. And same up here. Now here's something to think about. Light's coming from above here, so light's going to hit this side. And I would imagine, like the underside of a box, light probably wouldn't get to the underside. Whereas light probably will hit here, right? Shine, ding, but it won't make it there. So you start adding these stripes, you start doing this to your buildings and your boxes, and it'll start turning into a city before you know it. You can have lines going to vanishing points. Now, I'm just throwing these down here quickly. What I would encourage you to notice is that although I'm not explaining my steps, and although they may be happening a little quickly, I'm just going to go all the way. I want you to know that they still all follow the rules. So those lines go to the vanishing point. That looks really flat. How do I make things look tall? Well, I draw a vertical. So right here, I'm going to put my ruler here, and I'm looking here. I know the ruler spans, but right here, I'm just going to do a short vertical. I'm going to connect that to a vanishing point. If I want to make a grid, I'm going to go to a vanishing point. So I want lines on this sidewalk, so I'm going to draw them all the way to the back vanishing point. It's an interesting system. On one hand, it gives you all the answers. Everything's either vertical or to a vanishing point. On the other hand, you have to accept those answers. You know, if someone tells you, for example, they give you a test and they said the answer is 2, you have to just accept the answer is 2. You can't be like, but I want it to be 4. This is similar in that your answer is it has to go to a vanishing point or be a vertical. And who knows, maybe sometimes you're not going to like the way that looks. But as long as you follow those rules, it's correct. And still here. As I just sort of continue on this drawing, everything I'm drawing is either a vertical or going to a vanishing point. This looks like it's floating. Maybe I will draw 2 verticals. Now it looks like a sign. All right, guys, I'm signing off. That's how to draw some basic boxes. Then use your vanishing points to add stripes to it. Then choose a consistent light source and shade consistently the side opposite your light. And that will get you pretty far on your project.